Hello, welcome to this video on the Bodhicaryavatara, chapter 7, verse 32. I'll give you the text of it. Here we are. Evam vipakshamunmulya yate totsaha vridhaye Chandamana ratityagat paryavashita balaya. And again, evam vipakshamunmulya yate totsaha vridhaye Chandamana ratityagat paryavashita balaya. This sentence is actually grammatically quite a simple one. The second line is one long compound ending with an instrumental plural. It's instrumental plural of bala, power, strength, ability, balay, by the abilities, by these balas, for chanda that we've just had, this desire, mana, pride. This is mana. Mana is normally pride in a bad sense. It's not totally condemned. For example, even in the Karaniya Metta Sutta in Pali, one is cautioned against being atimani, kind of over proud, having an over big idea of yourself. But there's a level of good mana here. I take to be rather in a sense of self-respect, a healthy self-respect, in the sense of one has this capacity for Buddhahood. You have human qualities. Respect that and take a legitimate pride in the fact that you have, to paraphrase Shantideva in an earlier verse, you have got a seat on the boat of human life. So that's the kind of mana that can be cultivated, as opposed to an egoic, selfish form of mana, pride. Rati, again, this is the rati that we had in verse 32. Rati meaning delight, often, as I said then, in the sense of romantic delight, but here clearly in the term of delight in living the virtuous, the holy life. Tyaga, from the root tyaj, meaning to leave. It's rather the same meaning as the mukti that we had in the previous verse. Where are we? Rati mukti, this power of mukti, letting go. And here we've got this tyaga, which is idea. Mukti, letting go. Tyaga is often translated as renunciation. But pretty much the same thing. There's some fond offence, to quote Edwin Arnold in The Light of Asia, that you let go, that you release what is negative, you release the kleshas, just let them go. So it's by the capacities of Chanda, Mana, Rati, Tyaga, Tatparya, and Vashita. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate capacities. Tatparya, I've explained this in the notes, but let's look at this in a little bit of detail. I hope you'll have read this note, but para, the basic meaning of para, let me go to my iPad screen. So para, as an adjective, the normal meaning is the idea of other, far, something outside yourself, belonging to another, alien, self and other. It's the other. And it's cognate with our English word far. Incidentally, cognate is the root para, not para, but para, that which is far, meaning often used in the meaning of the far shore, the distant shore, the other side, the distant side, as in prajna param ita, the prajna, the wisdom, param ita, this ita, gone, param, that's the accusative of motion, gone to the other side, gone to the far shore, often translated as gone beyond, the wisdom gone beyond. By the way, while we're on this subject, I've heard a lot of people talk about it as if it is right, pronouncing it as if something like paramita. It is not paramita, it is param ita, and the full phrase is prajna, the wisdom, param, the far shore, gone. Prajna param ita. So para, that's the basic meaning. And as a neuter noun, it's param, neuter noun, it means the one's object, one's chief object, the paramount object, that which is the most important thing for a person, the desired aim is para. And you can see why. It's the idea of you haven't got it yet. It's para. It's something you want, but it is para. It's far away. It's other. It's still out there. It's something you want to achieve. So it's not just anything you want to achieve. As the language, as Sanskrit developed, this param came to mean, one's just the main thing that you want, your big objective in life, your life's goal. Now, if you put the tat means that. It's also the combining form for the third person singular. So tat para is a bahuvrihi compound, that is a possessive compound, adjective. So it is an adjective describing a person. So a person who is tatpara means a person who has that as his goal. But by a curious extension, and I think this word, I'm not sure if it's unique in Sanskrit in this respect, but it's certainly the most common instance of an unusual phenomenon, that tatpara, this meaning of tat distinctly means that. So tatpara would mean having that as one's goal. But it's come to mean that the meaning of tat has kind of merged into para. So the word now tatpara has just come to mean devoted to whatever. And then you have to then use as a separate word what you're devoted to. So tatpara then as an adjective on its own, almost ceasing to have this bahuvrihi possessive compound force, just comes to mean devoted. By contrast, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the true yogi should be matpara. Mat, by the way, is the combining form of aham, meaning I, mam, me. Matpara, in compound, mat. The matpara means devoted to me, utterly devoted to me, that I should be the only person, only object that he thinks of or wants. So let's go back to tatpara, devoted. And it makes a vriddhi derivative, an abstract noun of tatparya, meaning devotion, the devotedness, devotion. So tatpara is the adjective, the noun. You make it by when the vriddhi derivative abstract, you vriddhi the first syllable, so tat becomes tat, and you change the final a to ya. So tatpara adjective, tatparya abstract noun. So tatparya is devotion. And in this verse, this tatparya balam is the devotion power. In other words, the capacity to make yourself completely devoted to something, the capacity to select what your goal is and just devote your energy to that. So that is the Tatparya Bala. Balam. It's a neuter noun. And Vashita. Vasha is a noun meaning power, but more specifically, it's not just inner power, something you have. It's more specifically power over something, power to command. From the original root means to command something. So if you have vasha over something, you have the power over it. Now, for example, this word para we've just been looking at, meaning an other. So if you do something, let's have the ablative here, paravashat. Vashat is the adverbial ablative, through the power, through paravashat. Now, it's like doing something under duress, out of paravasha, out of other power. In other words, somebody else was controlling you, somebody else had power over you, so you did it paravashat. If you are a vashin, with our ending here, ending in, as in yoga, yogin. Vashin, it means you are exercising power. You are, in the driving seat. You're in the position of power. You're the Vashin. And you can make an abstract noun out of that by adding ta, which is actually cognate with the Latin ending itas, which in English becomes iti. Iti, as in verity, capacity, modernity with iti endings. It's the cognate with this ta. It's another way of making an abstract noun. So Vashin plus ta, in combination you drop the n, so it becomes Vashita. So Vashita here has the status or condition of being a Vashin. So in other words, you have got to have this balam, this power, to be a Vashin. You've got to have the capacity to be in control. And the idea, I understand it here, is the capacity to have power over yourself. In other words, you want paravasha. You want all these other influences pushing you this way and that, as is common in ordinary human life. But if you have vashita, means you put yourself in control of yourself, of what's happening within you. So what he is saying here is, by these various powers, these balay, he's treating them as 6 separate powers. Look at the way he's used the plural here. Sorry, let me pull my... Here we are. This balay, instrumental plural, by the capacities, the abilities of chanda, desire, mana, healthy self-respect, rati, taking delight in it, tyaga, renunciation, tatparya, devotion, and vashita, being in control. By these, and I take this line here to be, well, we know it's grammatically it's a compound, it's now used in an adverbial sense to qualify everything in the previous line. Now, uprooting the opposite in this way, one should endeavor to increase one's exertion, how? By these 6 balas, by these balay. So, the main verb in this sentence is yateta. One should strive. It's from the root yet, which is cognate, probably from the same root as Many Williams, probably connected with the root yam, which means to pull, and then ayama, control, as in pranayama, and in right effort, samavayama, which in Sanskrit is samyak vyayama, and by Sandhi samyak vyayama, then associated with that root yat, meaning to push or pull, and then the extended meaning to strive. You're pushing, you're exerting force against what you're striving against or striving for. So yateta, one should strive. One should strive for what? For something in the dative. Vridhaye is the dative of vridhi. Just as in the previous verse we had siddhi, it's a feminine noun ending in a short e, so it makes it siddhaye in the dative. And here vridhi, feminine noun ending in e, vridhaye, for the growth, for the increase. Vridhi, by the way, is cognate with our English word growth. There are lots of words where you have a v, which comes out of the g in other languages. So vridhi, growth. See, they're a bit disguised, but there it is. It's that same word that we still have. So one should strive for the growth, for the increase of your exertion, of your utsaha. Now, I did, in fact, just pause for a moment. Yes, sorry, I had paused there. I remember we'd had this word several times before in the Bodhicaryavatara. If you go back to verse 2, Kushal Utsaha, this is Kushala Utsaha here. And I've then Utsaha endeavor, and I've done a note here on the meaning of Utsaha Sah, basic meaning to prevail or be victorious, the struggle. Utsaha, struggling up, being roused to action, putting forth effort. And the cognate, the Seg, in modern German, Sieg, victory, and the Old English is Sieger, we don't use it anymore, it's the Old English word victory, but that Saha. So back to where we were, so Utsaha, the idea of exertion or effort. Back to 31, where are we? Sorry. 32. Here we are, sorry about that. So, yateta utsaha becomes called yateta utsaha. So one should strive, one should make an effort for the vridhaye of utsaha, for your exertion growth, for your exertion increase. So yateta utsaha vridhaye, one should strive to improve your level of exertion, improve your ability to put forth effort. Yateta utsaha vridhaye. Yateta with the dative, yateta vridhaye, one should strive for the increase. The evam vipakshamunmulya, evam, thus, as in evam maya shrutam, in Pali, evam maya sutam. So in this way, evam, vipaksham unmulya. Paksha means a wing, as in the wing of a bird. Let me give you the iPad again. Paksha, wing. We have in Sanskrit a pakshin, having a wing, therefore a bird, so a pakshin, a pakshi. In Pali, pakhi is a bird. Now this paksha is very often used in a figurative sense to mean one part of something, a component element, especially where there are two opposite sides of the same thing. For example, in astronomy, the moon has its bright paksha and its dark paksha. It could be actually, it might be cognate with the word faction, two opposing sides. So the vipaksha, the separative V, the away side, the opposite side, the antithesis or the opposite of something. So vipaksham unmulya having uprooted the vipaksha, having uprooted the opposite, or having uprooted what is antithetical to what you want. Anything that stands in your way is the vipaksha, the opposing side, the antithesis, the opposite. By the way, vipaksha, right back in verse 2, where Shantidev asked Kim Viryam, what is virya? And it's the vipaksha of virya, the opposite of virya is alasyam, which means sloth. So there it just means the opposite in the sense of what's the linguistic opposite, the opposite meaning. Unmulya. Oops. Well, we say to uproot something. In Sanskrit, you say also to uproot or to outroot. Unmulya. Vipaksham unmulya, having uprooted the opposite. So mula, pretty common word, meaning a root, same in Sanskrit and Pali. As in a botanical root, the root of a plant, the root of a tree. Where the Buddha said, there are the roots of trees, go and sit. He said, Rukhamulani. In Sanskrit, Vrikshamulani, tree roots. So, out, up or out, ut, and we can make a verb. You can make these what's called denominative verbs out of nouns by the ayati ending. So ut mulayati, literally to outroot. We say to uproot. And by sandhi, this t before a m becomes an n, which is why we have this form unmulayati. The absolutive of the verbs in ayati is just ya. So that is how we get having uprooted is unmulya. Remember, unmulayati, unmulya. Unmulya, having uprooted, extirpated. So here we are again. Evam, in this way, vipaksham unmulya, having uprooted vipaksham, the opposite, in this way. Yate tutsaha vridhaye. Yateta, one should strive. Vridhaye, for the increase. Utsaha vridhaye, for the increase in one's exertion or striving. Chandamana ratityagat paryavashita balai. How should one strive? With, by means of, instrumental plural, by means of these capacities. The capacities for chanda, mana, rati, tyaga, tatparya, and vashita. So the idea is we have these capacities, and we should, by the use of these capacities, one should yateta, one should strive for the utsaha vridhaye, to increase your level of exertion. So I will read it through for you again. Evam vipakshamunmulya yatetutsaha vridhaye chandamana ratityaga tatparya vashita balayha. Once more. Evam vipakshamunmulya yatetutsaha vridhaye chandamana ratityaga tatparya vashita balayha. And I think that's all I needed to say on this one. Yes, that's it for verse 32.